Hi, this is Rachelle with Journal Life's Journey, and I've received several questions about the glues that I use, which ones I use, and why I choose to use the glue that I choose to use. So I am going to share 10 of my favorite adhesives and kind of explain how I use them. I'm not an expert, I'm still learning, but I'm willing to share what I've learned about each of these glues. So we're going to go over them in no particular order, and I'll explain as much as I can. I also have an example of what they look like on a piece of cardstock. I used black cardstock because I felt like you would be able to see if it has a gloss finish when it's dry or not. Okay, so to start, I use PVA glue. It is acid free. This I've ordered from Amazon. It is by Line, I think it's Line Co. And this glue is used in bookmaking. It says ideal for bookbinding and paper projects. It covers large areas well. It is somewhat budget friendly, so I'm not really sure about using it in paper crafting projects. I haven't done that often because I see how it reacts when I'm doing a book cover, so I'm not sure that it will work well with my paper crafting projects, but you could try it. I mean, it wouldn't hurt to try. I use it in large areas like when I'm making a book cover where warping isn't really an issue. At the base level of gluing chipboard to cardstock, a little warping I can live with. I have used it with fabric, lightweight fabric, and it does work with that as well. So chipboard, cardstock, lightweight fabric, and it's just a white PVA glue. I'll show you how all of these dry once we finish going through them. Next up, we have art glitter glue. Well, let's prop this here. So this isn't the correct lid for the art glitter glue. This lid came off of another bottle of glue. I just use it because it's easy for me to refill my little needlepoint bottle. When you see me using this, I'm using art glitter glue 9 times out of 10. I usually try to tell you what glue I'm using, but yes, this small bottle generally has the art glitter glue in it. I initially felt like art glitter glue was expensive, but as I compare it with other glues and how it works, I'm okay with it. And also I feel like it is somewhat budget friendly because a little goes a long way. So it'll take me a while to go through this bottle. I just started this bottle and I think I bought it I think I had another bottle that lasted a year for me, but I wasn't doing a lot of paper crafting. I think I'm doing more this year than I did last year, but still, I think it's a pretty good bargain. I would buy the larger container. It makes more sense. Then you can easily transfer it to the, was it Bluebell, the little icing bottles or bottles like this when you want a precision line of glue. I use this for paper, like lightweight paper, lightweight fabric. I use it for laces and trims. It dries clear and matte, and it dries fast. So this is really one of my go-to glues. Okay, next up, very close in quality, is Barely Arts, and I just ordered this to be able to share it with you because ordinarily at the price that it was sold, I wouldn't have purchased it. I think it's about $5 more than it was the last time I bought some, and when I saw that, I was like, whoa, it used to be less expensive than the art glitter glue, and I was willing to try it back then when it was less expensive. Now it's more for less. So I get 8 ounces here, 4 ounces here, and it costs more than this bottle of art glitter glue. Okay, so in this instance, you do get some extras. This is a very good glue as well. The difference is minimal between these two glues. One thing about the art glitter glue, once the temperature goes below freezing, most shops won't ship it because I guess it contains more water than the Barely Arts glue, and this will freeze during shipping, and then the glue is no good. So I don't know about that because I live in Central Florida. We don't really have freezing temperatures like that. But I do know that at some times of the year, it's hard to get the art glitter glue, which was why I originally tried the Barely Art glue, and I really like it. It's just that I'm not willing to pay that price. So this is the lid that comes with it, and that's the lid that I put on the art glitter glue bottle. So you can dispense the glue that way. And it has this little green tip to close this opening. You get that. You get two different tips. So you get one with the needle tip, and you get one, let's see if I can get these out and show you. So you get the needle to unclog, or the pen to unclog. You get the needle nose applicator, and then this small applicator. Then this is to close the lid. So you get all of those in this little tube. Let's see if I can get them back in there. And this needle comes in handy. I have a whole pin cushion that I keep mine in so that I don't lose it, because I have lost one before. And I do have extra, I ordered extra sets of these. Oh, now it's stuck. Let's see if I can get all of this back in here. I did order extra sets of these applicator nozzles, or whatever you want to call them, so that in case I lost anything broke, I would have some on hand. They do sell this, well, the last time I checked, they do sell this separately. This is a really good glue. Back to the glue. It does dry fast. It is expensive compared to art glitter glue. It dries clear and matte. We didn't talk about vellum previously. You can use it on vellum. It warps a little bit, but not as much as other glues. Like, I think art glitter glue warps vellum a little bit more because it has water in it. Okay, so that is it for Barely Art glue. Let's move on to the Scotch Create glue stick. This is my favorite glue stick ever. It's a permanent glue stick, multi-purpose, photo safe, Scotch Create. What can I say about it? It will work on paper, thin paper. There's what the glue looks like. It's good for large areas. It's a pretty decent size. This is budget friendly. I also use it to add to washi tape when I want my washi tape to stick permanently. So I just run the washi tape over it. This works great. I've actually used it adding cardstock to chipboard, and it works great. So this is great for collage as well. Next up, I love it, but it doesn't love me. It's Fabri-Tac. This is a permanent fabric adhesive. It says it bonds fabrics, lace, glass, leather, wood, and trims. Grabs fast and dries clear, acid-free, and washable. If you need a strong hold, this is the glue. It's easy to clean up because you can use a rubber cement remover or glue remover, which is this. Mine is pretty ratty because I use it a lot. These are available at most Dollar Trees. And I think they call it a glue remover. So if you have any seepage with this, using the glue remover, you can get that up where you don't have that option with some of the other glues. So easy cleanup. It works on fabric. The only thing with it on fabric is that it will seep through the fabric, and depending on the type of fabric that you're using, you may see glue spots on the fabric. It works great with heavy cardstock and chipboard. Of course, you can use it with laces and trims. Some of these other things I have not tried it with, but it is a very good glue. It does not warp the paper. I think it's because it's alcohol based, where most of these other items are water based, so that's why they warp. And this is also comparable. If you can't find Fabri-Tac, it's comparable to 3-in-1. I really don't know the difference between the two. I don't have any 3-in-1 at the moment, but when I can't get a hold of the Fabri-Tac, I will use 3-in-1 instead. And this is costly, but again, it's worth the cost. I've picked up 2 bottles recently from Walmart. They were on sale for $11 each. Up next, we have Eileen's Tacky Glue. I'm off and on with using this glue. It does warp. It's very thick. It sticks well. It has a strong hold, but it dries slowly. So a lot of times it depends on the project whether I'll use this or not. Making journal covers, it's great for the covers. Kind of like the PVA glue. It's just a less expensive option. You can get bottles, I think this size, this is 3 ounces, from Dollar Tree, but they also sell it in craft stores as well as the big box stores like Walmart. I'm not sure about Target, but I do know they have it in Walmart. It will warp your paper, so I'm kind of careful where I use it and how I use it. I also think it does well covering large areas. It says it's non-toxic, dries clear, ultra strong. It is strong. So if you need a good strong glue and you're not worrying about warping or anything like that, or how long it's going to take to dry, then Eileen's tacky glue is great, and it's also very budget friendly. So next up, it's not a liquid glue, it's double-sided tape, like Scor-Tape, which is the name brand. This is Scor-Tape. Looks like this. It comes in different widths from 1/8 inch on up to 1 inch, and I think you can even get full sheets, letter size or A4 size sheets of Scor-Tape. It's fairly expensive, but totally worth it. It works great. I have no issues with it. It says it's perfect for cards, boxes, glitter, embossing, scrapbooking, foils, ribbon, origami, iris folding, I don't know what that is, and micro beads. Double-sided adhesive, acid-free, heat-resistant, 27 yards long. This is 1/2 inch wide, and it comes in various widths. This is a generic double-sided tape. I know a lot of people swear by the Scor-Tape. I have tried these generic tapes, and I don't have an issue with them so far, and I live in a climate where tapes and glues are finicky. Overall, I have had issues with double-sided tape, so I always feel like it's a good thing to reinforce with a liquid glue as well, depending on how much strength you need for the project that you're working on. But this is an 1/8 inch tape, and it's just a generic brand. All of these are available on Amazon as well. I've even found double-sided tape in Dollar Tree. Here we go. Here's one right here. It's a little beat up. This one is 0.3 inches, Crafter's Square, archival, acid free, and it's a double-sided tape from Dollar Tree. And this is another type of double-sided tape. It's supposed to be stronger than your regular tape. I think the brand name is Redline. I'm not sure if this is actual brand name or just a random generic version. I don't remember where I got this from, but this is another option, and it's supposed to have a super duper strong hold. And it's not red, that's just the color of the backing paper on there. Okay, so that is it for those. And I'll use double-sided tape. A lot of people don't like to use double-sided tape to make pockets because they say when you put something in the pocket, it can get hung on the double-sided tape because essentially the tape stays sticky forever, unlike a liquid glue that will dry over time and cures so that it's no longer sticky. I use double-sided tape in planning stuff, like when I'm tipping in pages. I use double-sided tape when I'm doing the wrap of a notebook cover or journal cover, book cover, whatever I'm making. I use it in conjunction with liquid glue, usually, depending on the project. So the thing about the double-sided tape is once you glue it down, if you glue 2 pieces of paper or cardstock together using double-sided tape, that's pretty much it. You're going to either rip your paper or destroy your project trying to take those 2 apart. Now, if you add a little bit of wet glue with a double-sided tape, that gives you time to make adjustments. If you figure out you did something wrong, it gives you time to pull it apart. The benefits of the double-sided tape is that there is no warping. So because there's no water involved, no liquid involved, there's no warping. It's strong at first, but it can weaken over time. So in conjunction with the double-sided tape, you also have the tape runners. This one is a Japanese version. I have a Elmer's version. I had Scotch. I just cannot find the refills for the Scotch, but all of these work great, but I've never used them on a paper crafting project. I'm usually using these in my planner. Okay, so I cannot say how sturdy they are for paper crafting, but they work great for paper planners. Okay, next up, another budget-friendly one that you can find almost anywhere, including Walmart, Dollar Tree, besides Amazon and the craft stores, is Mod Podge. This bottle, it's 2 ounces, actually came from the Dollar Tree. I usually have several of these on hand. I do buy the larger bottles from time to time, but when I run out, I kind of like to have these on standby. So this is my standby bottle. It is water-based, glue and finish. So you can use it to seal your project, to protect your project. Some people don't have an issue with it. The only issue I have with Mod Podge, well, I have 2 issues with it. When I use it as a finish, it isn't actually matte. It says it's matte, but it doesn't really dry matte. It can warp your paper because it's water-based. And other than that, it's great. It's a good glue, and it's great for large areas, budget friendly. I can only complain about the warping and the glossy finish, even though it's supposed to be matte. And a lot of people don't have that issue. It kind of feels tacky too, but I think it's because I live in a humid environment and that it never actually cures, or I don't think it ever actually cures here because it's always moisture in the air that keeps it from completely drying out. I don't know. That may not be true. That's just my own theory about it. But I still use it because it's a good glue, inexpensive, and it's great for large areas. When I'm doing something where I have to spread glue over a large area, I like to use an inexpensive glue that works well because you're using a lot of it. And as you can see, some of these glues can get pretty pricey. Next up is Tombow. This is only my 2nd bottle of the Tombow Aqua Mono Liquid Glue. It has 2 tips, so it has a fine tip end, and I do like the way the glue comes out. It doesn't seem to clog where the Art Glitter glue and the Barely Arts glue will clog on you. I don't really have that issue with Eileen's or Fabri-Tac. Fabri-Tac will thicken over time. They say do not use nail polish remover to thin this glue. I know I'm all over the place, but I forgot to mention this. They say not to use nail polish remover to thin it. It says it can be thinned with a small amount of acetone. So acetone is in nail polish remover, but if you're going to thin it, I think you should just buy pure acetone and use that. So this is the broad tip on the Aqua Mono. I like this glue so far. This is my 2nd time using it, my 2nd bottle. I like it so far so good. I didn't like it before because it got on my fingers and it just seemed like even after I washed my hands, it had this weird sticky feeling like I couldn't get the glue off of my hands. So now I'm just careful not to get it on my hands. It's very wet to me. So of course, if it's very wet, it warps. It does dry clear, but it dries slowly, very slowly. Again, you have to pick and choose where you want to use this glue. I use it on small paper pieces when I'm matting sometimes. I'm not using it over large surfaces so far. With how much use I've gotten out of this bottle, which is almost gone, it's about a little more than a third left in the bottle. So far, I'm happy with it this time. I would buy it again. I'm still testing it, but I decided to put it in with a 10 because, again, I think I would buy it again, and I do like it for smaller pieces. Like if I'm making clusters or adding paper flowers, things like that, I like this for that. Next up, we have Matte Medium. This is the gel medium matte gel. I have the gel version of it. This is fairly expensive. This bottle from Hobby Lobby was $16.99, but it has lasted a long time because I've used it sparingly, and I tend to do that when things cost more. I don't use them as much. That's why I say things like the Eileen's Tacky Glue, the Mod Podge that cover large surfaces, I would use those more. This definitely dries matte. This does not warp. You can use it for paper, collage. Again, it's expensive, but it does what it says, and it can be used as a glue. I have a few other things that I use, and I'll go over these one more time before we go. But these other two, this is Glossy Accents. I rarely use this, but I like to have it on hand. It clogs really easily. It's called a clear dimensional medium. So basically it's used to accent designs on paper. That is often how it's used, but you can also use it to glue down metal and plastic on your projects. Those things that you're not so sure that any of these other glues will hold down, Glossy Accents will hold it down. The only thing is, if you have any that seeps out, it is going to dry glossy, so you will see it. I do like to always have that on hand. Then another bonus item. This is going to look horrible because I use this lid kind of as a paint palette. This is my DIY Mod Podge. This is what I have left. This started out with 8 ounces of white glue. I used the Jot brand glue from Dollar Tree. I like that best. 8 ounces of glue and 1/3 cup of water. So I use my DIY Mod Podge as a more cost-effective way to do collage, to make masterboards, things like that. And believe it or not, it dries with a matte finish for the most part. It has a tiny bit of gloss, but I think it really works great, and it does hold down collage well. And it doesn't give me that glossy finish that you get with Mod Podge. A brief review before we get to what they actually look like on paper. The PVA glue for bookmaking, adding the cardstock to the chipboard. Tacky glue, general use. Be careful, it warps, it dries slowly. Art glitter glue dries fast. Minimal warping. I won't say that it doesn't warp at all, but very minimal. And it's a great all-around glue for crafting, paper crafting. The Scotch Create glue, I use it for large areas with covering paper, for matting. So if I'm matting a large piece, I'll put the Scotch Create glue in the center and then go around the edge with the art glitter glue. I would do the same thing with the Barely Arts glue. I'd use it the same way I use the art glitter glue. Fabri-Tac works great on paper, no warping. Can irritate the skin, it irritates mine, so I try to be careful with it. It's fairly expensive, but it is worth the price. Mod Podge, great glue, great for what it is. It does not necessarily dry matte. It's a great sealant or finish, and it's a decent glue. And I know I'm not doing these in the same order. The matte gel is excellent, can be used as a glue. It can be used as a protective sealer. It can be used as a glue or as a finish. It's great for collage or decoupage, things like that. Still testing this one, but I'm liking it more on my second try. It's very wet, takes a long time to dry, but it works great for small pieces like clusters. And then we talked about the double-sided tapes, the different ones that I use. I generally use these for wrapping books, tipping in pages. I use it for adding magnets, and I think that's pretty much it for the double-sided tape. Okay, let's look at the little chart that I made. Let's move these over. So this is my chart. So that you can see how each one of these dries. And I'm going to take the backing off of the double-sided tape, which this means nothing really. It's just so that you can see what the tape actually looks like. And I didn't burnish that down. I don't think I burnished any of this down. So this has been drying for almost 24 hours. And what I did was just put a little glue on my finger and rub it around. Except for the Fabri-Tac, I just went from bottle to paper, straight from the bottle to the paper. And then of course the double-sided tape, I just cut a couple of pieces off and put that on. So this is the PVA glue. So this is why I don't use the PVA glue on other projects. I don't know if you can tell the difference in the glossiness of these glues, but this is one of the more glossy glues on this chart. This still feels a little tacky even after drying overnight. So here we have the art glitter glue. It's basically matte. It has some sheen, but if you have any that seeps out on your project and you are not able to wipe it up or you don't see it, you're going to get a matte finish. It's not going to be glossy and glaring, and there's no tackiness. It's completely dry. This is barely arts. It's tacky. I'm surprised at that result, and it's a little more glossy. I don't know if maybe I put more. This wasn't very scientific. I don't think I put more, and it had just as much time to dry as the art glitter glue, but it still feels tacky too. Just a little less tacky than the PVA glue, but it has a tackiness to it. This feels completely flat. The Scotch Create, I'm surprised at that too. It has minimal gloss. It's mostly matte. So I guess my two favorites do perform the best. The art glitter and the Scotch Create. Nice and matte and nice and dry. No tackiness. This one is the Fabri-Tac straight from the bottle. So I couldn't make it very thin straight from the bottle, but as you can see, as I expected, it's quite glossy, but it is completely dry. It feels tough like rubber. That's why I associate Fabri-Tac with rubber cement. I think they are the same, but I don't know. But this is the Fabri-Tac, and it has no tackiness. Another thing that I wanted to mention is after it's completely dry, I don't think that the glue remover will work on it. No, it will not. So when it's mostly dry but still a little wet, then you can use the glue remover on it. Here we have the Eileen's Tacky Glue. As suspected, it is glossy, but it is actually dry, no tackiness. It's quite glossy though. It's about the same glossiness as the PVA glue. My PVA glue that I use for this sample is a little older, so maybe that might have something to do with the tackiness, but the Barely Arts glue is brand new. I just got it yesterday, so I don't know why that one is tacky. Then of course the double-sided tape is tacky, and when you are using the double-sided tape on your projects, it's best to not put your fingers on it so that the oils, natural oils on your hands don't adhere to the tape and cause the stickability to be less. This is the Mod Podge, and I'm surprised that it looks so matte on this paper. It does still have a sheen. If I hold it a certain way, you can see, but it is fairly matte. It kind of along the same lines as the Scotch Create. It's just a little more glossy. It is unbelievably not tacky. So maybe when you use Mod Podge as a sealant or a finish, it depends on the surface that you're putting it on as to whether it will remain tacky or have that sticky, gooey feeling. Because this does not have that feeling. It's dry, completely flat, no tackiness. This is the Tombow. It's very glossy, but then on the edges, it's not. So in the center is probably where there was more glue. I don't know if you can see that. In the center is glossy, but around the edges, it's matte. So maybe I just put too much. And I do think with the Tombow Mono Aqua Glue that a little goes a long way, and this just may be too much glue. Then we have the matte medium. It performs the best. You can barely see that on the paper. I had to do a double take and was like, did I actually put anything on the paper? I can see where I lifted, oops. I can see where I lifted my finger up. So there's some texture there. That was how I noticed, okay, so there is actually something there. But can you see that? That is completely matte. It feels chalky and dry. Yeah, it's great. I think it turns out great. So matte medium, Scotch, art glitter so far are the winners to me, along with my DIY Mod Podge. This does warp because it does have water, but look, it is mostly matte. It's just as matte as the Mod Podge, right? And I think it's probably less expensive because I pay $1.25 for 8 ounces, add a third a cup of water, and this is what I get. I use it the same way I would use the Mod Podge. Now let's talk about warping. You can't really see much of it on the back here. I can tell that the Barely Arts warped a little bit. The Mod Podge did. The PVA did. What is this? The Eileen's did. Other than that, there's absolutely nothing here where the Fabri-Tac is. The Scotch Create is good. Of course, the double-sided is good. This is the Tombow warped. Yeah, so those wet glues, the art glitter glue didn't warp. It didn't warp at all. Wow, okay. Where the Barely Arts did. That is interesting because I did really like the Barely Arts glue. But now that I see that art glitter glue performs a little better, I think I'll stick with the art glitter glue. So there we have it. My favorites, just looking at this, would be the art glitter, the Scotch, the matte medium, and the DIY Mod Podge. That's just for everyday overall crafting, because if there's any seepage, it's matte. There's no warping here, and they work well. Okay, so that's it for my 10 favorite glues and adhesives. I talked about how I use each, how they perform, and I hope you found this helpful. If you have any questions about anything that I mentioned, please let me know in the comments below and I will definitely answer. I will link to all of the different glues that I can in the description box below if you're interested in checking them out, as well as applicator bottles and other things you might need for your glue collection. So I also use the double-sided tape to glue down acetate, or in my case, it is a sealed laminate pouch, but it holds it very well. So if you need to adhere acetate, I use double-sided tape for that, and all three of these work great for it. And you can also add a little Fabri-Tac to it to give you time to move things around and also to make sure that it stays in place. So I just wanted to share that, show you that it does. I mean, if I pull really, really hard, it will come up, but I'm not going to pull really, really hard. And if you burnish it down, it will hold even better. So I had just stuck that on there, but with that on, it will hold even better. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.